Oh, here. What's up, Mob Crew? Thank you guys so much for tuning in here. I'm sitting there reading an article. My apologies, guys. I had to get a cable fixed. Welcome. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. My apologies for being late. Tomorrow I'm going to have a special live show for the mods, just to let you guys know. We'll be covering Sebastian Rogers' case tomorrow because there's a lot of stuff to go over. And I just didn't have enough time to put a show together today, but my goodness, there's a lot. So just a warning, tomorrow we'll have a special live on that. But back to the story tonight. Luigi Mangione, hoping I'm pronouncing that right. We're going to do an update on him. Let me get this video ready. And let me make sure my settings are good. Okay, good deal. All right, let me just play this clip real quick. I'm still fixing something.
Good afternoon, everyone. Earlier this morning in Altoona, Pennsylvania, members of the Altoona Police Department arrested Luigi Mangione, a 26-year-old male, on firearms charges. At this time, he is believed to be our person of interest in the brazen targeted murder of Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, last Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan. The suspect was in a McDonald's and was recognized by an employee who then called local police. Responding officers questioned the suspect, who was acting suspiciously and was carrying multiple fraudulent IDs as well as a U.S. passport. Upon further investigation, officers recovered a firearm on his person, as well as a suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder. They also recovered clothing, including a mask consistent with those worn by our wanted individual. Also recovered was a fraudulent New Jersey ID, matching the ID our suspect used to check into his New York City hostel before the shooting incident. Additionally, officers recovered a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset. NYPD detectives are en route to Pennsylvania as we seek to interview the subject further. This apprehension is thanks to the tireless work of the greatest detectives in the world. And of course,
that this gunman stood outside that hotel entrance for about 10 minutes or so, according to sources, was wearing a mask when Thompson was arriving at this hotel for a conference that was expected to happen in the ballroom. We're told by sources telling our John Miller that...
Mic check, mic check. Okay, there, I can actually hear myself. My apologies, guys. I couldn't hear myself. My cord, I think I need to get a new headphone set, shorting out. So now I can actually hear myself, which is good. How's everybody doing tonight? Let me check the chat. Good to see you, Sharon, Rocky, Sensei D. Thank you guys so much. Of course, to my mods and members who support the channel. Terry, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Let me see here. So what we'll do is I'll quickly go over the timeline, and then we'll go over his arrest, his charges, and I just realized I got the heater on in the back, so let me turn that off 1 second.
That gunman fired from about 20 feet away, several shots hitting Thompson, and then fled, actually ran down a back alley and onto a bicycle. Sources telling me that then took off toward the area of Central Park. Now, you can imagine right now at this stage of the investigation, investigators are pulling video from areas all around here.
Okay, there we go. All right, so let's just quickly go over the timeline, because that's what I always like to do on this channel, break stuff down visually. And we got over 100 people in here. If you can, please hit that like button. I appreciate all you guys in here taking the time out of your day to watch the show. God bless you guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I am Chris with Monsters Under Our Bed. We cover true crime, mystery to the missing. And so we're going to be covering the CEO assassination and the arrest of Luigi Mangione. It appears that he had traveled from Atlanta, Georgia, to New York and arrived on November 29th. Stayed at a hostel, which I still can't get over. I guess it's just because I've watched
Skylar,
those
I have
hostel
to have you
movies.
tell our viewers why you.
But it's just so weird that they call them hostels. Doesn't sound like a place I'd like to stay in. Anyway, so here they're, of course, now retracing all his steps so that way they can put a case together. And here is them kind of talking about going back and getting the footage from a Greyhound bus station in Atlanta where they believed he took that Greyhound to, which would then eventually end up in New York on November 29th.
Facing this story sent you to Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, to follow up on Anna's reporting there, we know that U.S. Marshals from the Regional Fugitive Task Force, along with other members of the New York Police Department, have been here in Atlanta combing through video evidence from Greyhound bus stations like this one here in the city, trying to see if there is any connection to when the suspect got on the bus and made their way to New York. We know that the bus he was on originated from the city, but law enforcement officials say that they are still trying to figure out at which point exactly he got on the bus, whether that's here in Atlanta or other multiple stops that it takes to get from here to New York City. Also, developments that law enforcement officials say that they are paying attention to is whether that suspect got on another bus to come back here to Atlanta. Based off of the developments that we are seeing out of Pennsylvania, we haven't necessarily seen any sort of sway in terms of momentum, in terms of law enforcement presence from here in Atlanta to up towards.
So I think obviously this is clips before Luigi was arrested and they were still searching for him, and they thought maybe he might travel obviously from where the shooter had come from, but obviously that was not the case. So then of course he arrives at the hostel on the 29th, and then it's not until December 4th that he allegedly
of Manhattan
seeks out CEO
at around
Brian
6:17
Thompson.
a.m. Photos released by the NYPD shows the hooded suspect at a Starbucks located at West 56th Street and 6th Avenue, less than 2 blocks from where the killing will take place.
It's kind of like a hotel, but you can it's spelled a little bit differently, but it's basically like a hotel, but it has more rooms in it, shared rooms. It's basically to save money. But yeah, I've never stayed in one, so I couldn't explain it, on a first-person perspective. But yeah, from what I understand, it has just more people that can stay in one room, more beds, and cheaper. So anyway, now fast forwarding, of course, since the arrest, they're now looking at all the evidence. And of course, it seems like he made a lot of mistakes. It seemed like this was like a professional hit. And it's just crazy that all the prep work that went into this assassination, and he leaves his fingerprints behind on multiple items, which to me sounds like he wanted to be caught. And then with the manifesto, which we'll read part of it. I posted a manifesto the other day. It was not the real one. I do apologize. I had to take that down because there was a lot of fake ones going around. I thought I had the right one, but it was apparently fake as well. But we will read the actual one.
At around 6:17 a.m.,
released
photos released by the NYPD shows the hooded suspect at a Starbucks located at West 56th Street and 6th Avenue, less than 2 blocks from where the killing will take place.
So here's his first mistake: is he apparently bought a couple of Kind bars and a water bottle, and left. At least according to this article here, it says, we're also at the crime lab to match the person of interest fingerprints with fingerprints found on both water bottle and a Kind bar near the scene of the homicide in Midtown Manhattan. Authorities have been probing DNA material and a partial fingerprint from a discarded Starbucks water bottle and an energy bar wrapper. Surveillance images showed the suspect buying it about 30 minutes before the shooting. And there's even some footage where I was kind of wondering what he was, looked like he was throwing something away. And so I wonder if this was the wrapper of the Kind bar that he threw away. right here, which I'll play in a second. Because you would think if it was a water bottle, it'd be like bigger and you'd be able to see it, but you can't really.
At around 6:30,
see what's
the
in his
suspect is
hand.
seen in a surveillance video obtained by ABC7 talking on a cell phone while walking east on West 54th Street toward the New York Hilton Midtown.
And so, just before the assassination, there's this footage here where he is getting closer to where Brian Thompson is at. And there's something in his right hand, and you'll see he puts his hands together. And then now it's in his left hand. So I wonder, what do you guys think? Is that the wrapper to the Kind bar? And he's just trying to gingerly throw it in the trash. Maybe not knowing that there's surveillance camera right there capturing him throwing that away. Sharon, good to see. I see some young people liking a hostel, but not older people. Yeah, I couldn't do it. To share a room with so many people. But yeah, I do wonder if that's like the wrapper, because like if it was a water bottle, you'd think you'd be able to see it in his hand, but whatever it is, is tiny. So I'm assuming that's like the wrapper from the Kind bar that he threw away.
At around 6:40 a.m.,
but what
the
I just
suspect
don't
lingers outside.
understand why I believe that he wanted to be caught is all this stuff. He went through all this prep, but the one thing he's not wearing is gloves. So he's leaving his fingerprints on everything, and including the rounds,
Side of the
which we'll look
Hilton,
at.
located on 6th Avenue between 53rd and 54th Streets, for around 5 minutes.
Yeah, dorm rooms. There you go. Yeah, that's
Moments
dorm
before
rooms.
the alleged shooter, Mangione approached CEO Brian Thompson. This is where he was allegedly laying in wait. Seen here, you can...
And it's something, some newer surveillance footage. I think it's been out for a day or two, but this is the footage where he was laying in wait. So this is the footage where he's actually across the street from the entrance of the convention, waiting for Brian Thompson. And so he's just sitting there, leaning up against the wall. And then this footage clearly shows just the moment when I am assuming he spots Brian Thompson.
see that he was leaning against a wall just across the street, waiting for the CEO. But what many people may have missed is what alleged shooter Mangione did right after he fired 3 shots into CEO Brian Thompson.
So true.
At around 6:44 a.m., Brian Thompson, CEO of United Healthcare, leaves towards the entrance of the Hilton across the street, where he was to attend an investors conference. At around 6:45 a.m., the suspect steps out behind Thompson and opens fire, shooting him in the back. The gun appears to jam multiple times, but the shooter calmly fixes it and
So I was watching a bunch of videos about the gun, because there's theories that the gun was jammed. There was theories on what kind of gun it was. And there was one, probably the most interesting one that I saw, and I just didn't have a chance to load it up in between this because it was very informative. But it was a guy that, so they believe the gun clearly was, 3D printed, but possibly the silencer was aftermarket or something like that. But this guy I watched, who's clearly a gun expert, said that what likely happened is it has something to do with when he put on the silencer, he likely not had practiced with the silencer before. And I guess it's all about connecting the two together. And if done incorrectly, at least from what I understood, is that after each time you fire the round that's supposed to because you fire a round and then the casing, because the bullet goes out, and then the casing shoots out. But in this case, that wasn't happening. And so you have to manually rack it each time. And anyway, there was a very interesting video. I really wish I would have had a chance to load it up. But he's pretty much explaining that it was likely due to the silencer causing some issues where it wasn't allowing the round to eject normally. So he had to clear it each time he shot. So anyway.
Continues firing his
continuing on.
gun. After firing the gun 3 times, which at Thompson, many thought it looked like the shooter was picking up the spent shell casing off the ground, but he actually did the opposite.
And if you guys remember, they thought that he was like picking up the rounds, but I noticed after looking back at the evidence, and I'm sure probably other people had probably pointed this out, but I was trying to look for him, but I couldn't find him. But not to say I'm sure people haven't pointed this out, but he does bend over on the ground, and for anybody that doesn't know, he was actually dropping those live rounds that have the Sharpie messages on them, deny, delay, depose, and we'll see here in some evidence photos. But I thought that was interesting because originally they thought that he was, picking up the spent shell casings, but clearly he was shooting like 5 feet back. So if he was picking up the shell casings, he would have been, shooting and then picking one up, shooting, or he'd walk back and pick them up. But that's not what he did. The reason he bent over is he actually was dropping the live rounds that had the words written on them, which I thought was kind of interesting.
As seen here in this footage, we can clearly see that there is multiple evidence markers, which likely label some of the spent shell casings. But what also was found was unspent bullets, found close to Thompson's body. These bullets had words written on them with a Sharpie.
So you can see here that number 2 and number 3, these ones, and actually here's a better.
What the alleged shooter, Mangione, likely did was drop the unspent bullets, which had the words written on them, like delay, deny, depose.
You can actually see there's there's like a sign, and then there's like some kind of I don't even know what the hell to call it, thing next to it, and then it's the same thing just as you go up a little bit further, and right next to the sign, which is this one up here, the next one, you'll see that there is actually,
as you can see here,
the same setup, planter. I guess it's a planter or something like that. But right where he bent over, there was a sign, and 2 and 3, and that's the ones where they actually found the live rounds with the words written on them. So clearly he had basically a pocket full of bullets with words written on them with the Sharpie.
Evidence markers 2 and 3 are closer to the sidewalk as this video taken from the street.
Yeah.
But we can see here in this photo, these are clearly unspent rounds that the shooter likely dropped just before crossing the street. Before I finish...
But yeah, you can clearly see those bullets there, live rounds, not spent, and they were closer to the sidewalk. So, yeah, he dropped those just before leaving.
These are clearly unspent rounds that the shooter likely dropped just before
But
crossing.
on top of that, he left his fingerprints on them, which is just, again, I don't know, it just makes me think that this guy did want to be caught.
The street. Before I finish...
So in this article here, it says the 3D printed gun that the healthcare CEO killing suspect Luigi Mangione had when he was arrested this week in Pennsylvania matches the 3 shell casings found at the crime scene in Midtown Manhattan. Also, Mangione's fingerprints match those investigators found on the items near the scene on December 4th's assassination. 3 9mm shell casings from the crime scene had the words delay, deny, depose written across them, 1 word per bullet. So, again, I think those are the bullets that he dropped just before he left after shooting Brian Thompson. And then it says First, we got the gun in question back from Pennsylvania. It's now at the NYPD crime lab. We are able to match the gun to 3 shell casings that were found in Midtown at the scene of the homicide. D says, I think you want to go down a blaze of glory and be a martyr to the cause. And that's kind of what he's being portrayed. At least to some.
And 6:48 a.m., the suspect flees.
So just to finish the timeline out, and then we'll get to where he was caught. And then there's actually an article by CNN that I believe came out today, which talks more about what happened at McDonald's. And this is why, another thing, I'm just blown away because, like, this guy could have probably gotten away for a certain amount of time, probably longer than just a few days. Not to say that, a killer should be on the loose, no matter how justified they may seem.
Getting onto an electric bike on 55th Street and 6th Avenue, and rides north toward Central Park. Surveillance footage captures the suspect riding the bike into Center Drive at 59th Street. Just before 7 a.m., CBS News reports to have seen footage appearing to show the suspect cycling out of the park on West 85th
so
Street.
true, Bob. Right.
At approximately 7:12 a.m., Brian...
That's such a great statement. Yeah, like it's some kind of tragedy, and there's some CEO behind the company that is involved in that tragedy, indirectly somehow. That this is the way that we, now conduct, business, is assassinating CEOs, which are just going to be replaced, and that's not going to solve anything except, what is that going to teach our next generation? That, we just assassinate people that, we don't agree with. Thank you, Kat, for being a member. God bless all the members supporting this channel and Patreons. I've been uploading some more videos to both members and patrons. Patreon has been updating like crazy, and I'm still trying to figure everything out. But I am uploading there. It's just like Patreon has like been the same for like a year, and then all of a sudden they're just doing all these updates, and it's very frustrating.
Brian Thompson is pronounced dead at Sinai West Hospital on 10th Avenue. The next day, on Thursday, December 5th, the public would finally get to see new surveillance photos released of the suspect without his mask on.
I'm not sure what you mean, but thank you, Rocky. Again, I mean, clearly this guy had an amazing education. Could have had a really bright future.
So what were the words? I'm told the cell phone was recovered in an alleyway on his escape route. Does that appear to be connected to the suspect?
We're working through that cell phone. Obviously, we'll be processing it forensically. And as far as words being exchanged, we do not have audio of the incident. We only have the regular video.
Okay, so now we'll fast forward to...
was found and
circulated by police.
Okay, here we go.
Learned about the CEO shooter, Luigi Mangione. Number 5, caught while eating at McDonald's.
So after, of course, leaving on a bike, he would eventually go to Greyhound and head west and eventually end up in Altoona.
Luigi Mangione was on a Greyhound bus traveling through Altoona on Monday morning, sources said. When he got off and walked into a McDonald's where a witness recognized him from the images of the suspect circulated by police. What's interesting is Greyhound buses tend to make stops along their route to allow the passengers to get some food and stretch.
Yeah, so I took the Greyhound, which I think I told you guys that I've had an one of the worst experiences ever in my life, probably in the top 5, top 10. was a Greyhound bus ride from Utah to Ohio. I've seen the worst of the worst. But what's interesting is, now I don't think this is exactly the case here, but what's interesting is Greyhound, at least with my ride, is, of course, they would, they knew people would be driving for, long hours, and they would stop, every 3 to 4 hours or something. I guess it just kind of depends on where they're at, but they would stop. And what's interesting is most of the stops were McDonald's. So I was kind of wondering if he had just gotten off the bus, just barely gotten off the Greyhound bus, but it sounds like he maybe had been off the bus for a while, because it looks like he did attempt to get a hotel nearby, which if you haven't heard about that, we'll play that clip as well. But again, in a little bit, I have the article from CNN, which talks a little bit more about what happened that day with the customers and what they experienced.
The more popular places they stop at is McDonald's. Mangione had a ghost gun capable of firing a 9mm round and a suppressor, police said. The gun and suppressor were consistent with the weapon used in the murder, NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch said.
I don't think
the
so.
The gun may have been made on a 3D printer, police said. Along with fake IDs, a passport, Mangione also had a 3-page manifesto, which they claim gives details about his motivation.
So, of course, here is his route from the time that he arrived on the 24th to December... Waiting for it. December 4th. I thought it was going to say it in here. Where then, of course, he killed the CEO. And then from there, he took the Port Authority bus facility there. And then... now, this is just a drive time, so I don't know. I don't think the bus took this exact route. Maybe they did. But then they did say he was in Pittsburgh at some point, which I forget where Pittsburgh. I know it's down over here. But then he continued west, and this is the McDonald's that he was arrested at. And apparently, nearby this McDonald's, there is a hotel where, before he went to the McDonald's, he allegedly went to go get a room, but that particular hotel, I guess, was booked. Which is kind of bad timing, because who knows, maybe that would have changed. Well, actually, I don't think that would have changed the outcome, because he was wearing the mask, which, in my opinion, I don't know why at this point he would have still been wearing the mask. Maybe he just... I doubt he probably had a phone, which, would have been smart for a criminal, not to have any kind of tracking device with you. So maybe he wasn't keeping up with the media as much. But, one of the last photos was him in the taxi with the blue, medical mask. And, of course, that's what he's, seen wearing in Altoona. Did he have more ammunition on him, or was that in the ditch bag? I don't think they said there was ammunition in the ditch bag. I could be wrong. I think there was, in the bag that he ditched at Central Park, was the backpack that you see him wearing. And then I think it's the hoodie that he was seen with a lot, that had the pockets, I believe. Because I think there's two hoodies. There's like the black hoodie, and then there's the hoodie that's kind of got the pockets that we see him like flirting with the people. Now, I could be wrong, but one of those hoodies ended up in that backpack, along with Monopoly money.
True at the fairgrounds in Butler. And
CEO of United Healthcare. This briefing is in Pennsylvania.
So, of course, he was arrested on December 9th, 5 days since the assassination. Here's the McDonald's where he was arrested at and the items he was arrested with. And then again, I'll read the article here in just a minute. And then if we'll also go over the manifesto, at least what's been released.
Disturbing it has been to see the backlash or the even support for what happened on social media, and applauded the actions of these two witnesses and, of course, of the police who showed up, and there was no violence involved. How they described what went on is, of course, that moment where you have the police approaching him, showing a fake ID, them telling him, have you been in New York recently, after they asked him to see his mask. And when he started shaking, after he had shown the fake ID, they ran the ID, realized that it wasn't real. Then he revealed himself and said he was Luigi Mangione. What's interesting here is that he is facing here in Pennsylvania the charges for illegal gun possession, for having this ghost gun without a permit, as well as for forging documents, basically that fake ID, for misrepresenting himself to authorities, and of course for other items that were found in his possession that were related to the crime. One of the questions that everybody's wondering is how long will it take for New York to file charges, but more importantly, for him to be extradited. There's two things that can happen here.
So again, I'm sure a lot of you probably know this if you're following this case, but he was caught with the same ID that he used at the hostel. And I believe, didn't they say he had like up to 4 fake IDs? So again, why didn't he get rid of this one? Again, there's just so many like little mistakes that I'm just really like blown away. That makes me wonder if he was really just trying to, knew he's going to be caught. It wasn't really, he went through so much pre-planning, but yet he doesn't wear gloves, leaves fingerprints, and maybe DNA, who knows, because obviously that's going to take longer to get results back on if he did leave his DNA on something involving with the crime and whatever he may have had on his person that was connected to the crime. But still, I can't believe he still had this ID.
He could waive his extradition and he will go to New York and face those homicide charges, or he could contest the extradition, at which point there would be other.
Yeah, I'm going to show that here, Teresa, in just a second.
Background, and he's fighting this fight.
Held in Altoona on potential gun charges illegally.
Okay, let's fast forward here.
He had learned to also list form for cars.
So quickly, just a little bit of background on
According
Mangione.
to a LinkedIn profile, Mangione was most recently an employee of a Santa Monica, California tech firm that offers a buying and selling platform for cars. His profile lists Honolulu, Hawaii as his location.
Yeah.
Mangione had learned to code in high school and helped start a club at Penn for people interested in gaming and game design, according to a 2018 story in Penn Today, a campus publication. University of Pennsylvania spokesperson confirmed Mr. Mangione graduated in 2020 with both a bachelor's degree in computer science and a master's degree in computer and information science. Number 2, Mangione was an AI expert. Mangione's major area of study at Penn was artificial intelligence, according to his LinkedIn profile. His minor was mathematics. His experience
that's what a lot of people are
lists
saying.
jobs
Book
as an
smart, but not
artificial
street
intelligence,
smart. Yeah.
teaching assistant for gifted high school students. Mangione also worked as an intern for a company that fixed UI bugs in the popular video game Civilization 6. He worked there for over 1 year, according to this bio. Number 1. He was the valedictorian in 2016.
What a waste. Again, innocent until proven guilty, but still, what a waste. So here's the arresting officer. Then I have the clip of him wearing the mask at McDonald's, and then I have the article we'll read.
We're able to pretty much find where he was at in the restaurant. And as soon as he was wearing a blue medical mask. As soon as we pulled that down, or we asked him to pull it down, me and my partner and I recognized him immediately, just from what we saw in the media with photos, videos. We just didn't even think twice about it. We knew that was our guy, but he was
I've seen that.
He was very cooperative with us. didn't really give us too many issues. Once we found out his identity, we took it from there.
How does it feel with 6 months on the job as a law enforcement officer to be part of?
All right, so skip it forward to where, yeah, so here he is. Oh, let me get it right here.
Seen eating a hash brown moments before.
So there, you can see he has his mask on, so if you can't tell, like, what's going on. So he's got the mask, but he's, like, you know, kind of got it on, you know, just the clip on the one ear, eating a hash brown. I mean, he does look a little different, and the beanie was smart, because, you know, the beanie, I think he's trying to hide the eyebrows, and nothing against having thick eyebrows, he's just got thick eyebrows. And, you know, when you have a mask, really the only defining features is, you know, what's available, which is the eyes and, you know, whatever else, which would be the eyebrows. And clearly he's got, you know, some thicker eyebrows. And, but I just don't understand why he's still wearing the mask at this point. I, in my opinion, let me know what you think in the chat. I think the mask is probably his biggest downfall. I would think if once he got out of state, like, I would have taken that thing off, in my opinion. Shaved the brows. But at the very least, the mask.
My one friend made the comment, he thought it was, he goes, don't that look like the shooter from...
You know, if it was still like the pandemic times, I know some people still wear masks, you know, especially when they're sick, just in case, you know, because there's still those, you know, strains or whatever. But again, you know, everybody's looking for a guy in a hoodie and a mask. And it's like, dude, I would have ditched that thing, you know, once I'm across, you know, in the next state, that thing's gone. Never wearing that thing again, because that's like the most, you know, everybody's talking about, the guy in the mask.
New York. An employee called police.
The worker that took his order, she said his eyes and his eyebrows. She just thought it was him.
Police say the gun Mangione had looks very...
Because then the only thing that's going to highlight is his eyes and, again, his eyebrows. But I could see where he was trying to do the beanie to cover his eyebrows, which was smart. But it looks like it wasn't working as well as he thought it was, because, you know, we can still kind of see his eyebrows. And I'm sure he probably was...
very similar to the gun used in the murder, capable of firing 9mm rounds.
Not to make it
made
too
at least
obvious.
In part with a 3D printer. Earlier, the suspect tried checking into this Altoona motel, but no room was available.
There was somebody that checked in, and the officer goes, "Did he have a mask on? Did he ever take a mask off?" I was like,
let me turn that up. So let me just play that again. The first thing the officer asked him, to the hotel clerk working there, did he have a mask on?
Capable of firing 9mm rounds and made at least in part with a 3D printer. Earlier, the suspect tried checking into this Altoona motel, but no room was available.
Yeah.
There was somebody that checked in, and the officer goes, "Did he have a mask on? Did he ever take a mask off?" I was like, "Comes back, no, he never did take the mask off." He says, "I'll be down there in 5 minutes to talk to you." We pulled it up on surveillance, and sure as stuff, they go, "Yeah, that's him."
Mangione had been out of touch with his family for months.
If it was the pandemic, like, kind of, you know, like the towards the end, we're still, you know, some good portion of the population was still wearing a mask. I think he would have probably been obviously just fine and blended right in. But now, with that kind of being over, yeah.
In November, sources tell ABC News his mother filed a missing persons report in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, huge.
The sources say investigators in Pennsylvania have started interviewing his relatives, perhaps asking about internet posts in which Mangione wrote about back pain, brain fog, and sciatica. Mangione at one point writing, "It's absolutely brutal to have such a life-halting issue." His former roommate in Hawaii said Mangione struggled with a back injury.
Unfortunately, he did let me know that the severity of his back issue was such that it was very difficult.
So before I play this is a guy that he stayed with in Hawaii. But let's read this article. I have not read this. I've read a portion of it. If you haven't heard it, let me see if I can blow it up a little bit here. There we go. But this is apparently a little bit more into went down at McDonald. So let me just take a sip here. So it says the regulars began assembling in the pre-dawn Monday at McDonald's just off the interstate in western Pennsylvania when at some point a fellow customer caught their attention. "Don't that look like the shooter from New York?" one of the regulars said, who only gave his first name, Larry, recalled his friend joking. So Larry and his buddy are joking, and one says, "Yeah, doesn't that look like the shooter from New York?" And then he replies, "He probably heard us." Larry said, of the man seated maybe 10 feet away in the back near the restrooms. Yeah, it did look like he was kind of like in the back in the corner somewhere of the fast food restaurant in Altoona. All joking aside, Larry's friend was correct. That man turned out to be the wanted fugitive. That man turned out to be the wanted fugitive suspect of calmly pulling out a pistol with a silencer on a midtown Manhattan street last week and gunning down the chief executive of United Healthcare in a brazen assassination that gripped the nation. Luigi Mangione, 26, sat alone at a table with a laptop and a backpack. According to police who arrested him at McDonald's, he was wearing a medical mask, a brown beanie, and a dark jacket. An image shown on social media by Pennsylvania State Police showed Mangione, his blue mask dangling from his ear, eating what appeared to be a hash brown. And then, of course, the photos. In a new post on social media, the Penn State Police shared new images of him in McDonald's. At the McDonald's on East Plank Road, a customer alerted an employee who called police Monday morning to say they believe the suspect was there. So everybody was talking about, that employee needs to get the reward, but it sounds like it was the Larry or, his buddy. But it sounds like they may have been onto him before that because, according to that guy, the hotel worker, which is close by to that McDonald's where he apparently went first, it sounds like they were already starting to, track him down. At 9:15, a pair of officers found the man wearing a medical mask and beanie in the rear of the building at a table with the laptop. There was a backpack on the floor near the table. They asked him to pull down the mask. And then people are also making the joke that Officer Fry arrested the guy at McDonald's. We didn't even think twice about it, Fry, who was about 6 months on the job. We knew that was our guy. Officers then asked for identification. He handed them the New Jersey ID with the mark Rosario, which we saw. When asked whether he had been to New York recently, he became quiet and started to shake, according to the complaint. Police have found no records that matched the ID. When they told the man he was under investigation, he gave the officers his real name, Luigi Mangione, asked why he used a false name. And then he replied, "I clearly shouldn't have." Police found a black 3D printed pistol with a loaded Glock magazine and a black silencer. Tish, I believe, told reporters that Mangione was found with a gun and suppressor, both consistent with the weapon used in the murder, referring to the device that muffles the sound of the firearm. The fraudulent New Jersey ID was a match. The ID the suspect used at the hostel in New York. She said he was also carrying a handwritten document that speaks to both his motivation and mindset. The document, which has been described as the suspect's Manifesto did not include specific threats, but indicated ill will towards corporate America. These parasites had it coming. I will read what's been available to you guys if you haven't heard it. Yeah, let me read that if you guys haven't heard a manifesto. And according to another article that came out by Daily Mail, I know that he's going to have a lot of fangirls, but again, we don't know. But according to Daily Mail, they think he may be homosexual. Again, that's alleged, but that's what they claim in the article. Where's the manifesto? I have it here. I know it. Here it is. Okay. All right. Sorry, that top part is cut off. Let me blow it up a little bit. There we go. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This was fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and a to-do list that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive health care system in the world, yet we rank roughly 42 in life expectancy. That is kind of shocking. United Healthcare, I'm assuming, is, and they say it's indecipherable, the largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown. And that's the whole monopoly thing. If anybody was asking earlier, I meant to respond to that. You know, that's basic monopoly at its core. And that's why he left that as a message, leaving the money in the backpack. But as our life expectancy, not the reality, is these, and then it's indecipherable, has simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit. Because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space. Excuse me. And frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, e.g., Rosenthal Moore, decades ago, and... Oh. It goes by really quick. Apologies. And the problem, so let me go back. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, e.g. Rosenthal Moore, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It is not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. So take it for what it is. Of course, there's more to it than this. We learned that he's got, some kind of back issue, which the Daily Mail put out a pretty stark article that I'll read just portions of it. And there's also something about apparently some of his frustration actually goes back to his mom and her health care as well. That her deductibles were an issue. I don't want to quote anything inaccurate, but I'll get to it. So Daily Mail, I don't know if you guys have seen this one. This is pretty wild. So they're basically saying that there is a link between sexual frustration and attacks. We've seen some famous examples in history. Basically, because apparently his inability to perform has been an issue because of his issues with his back, some pinched nerves. I forget the medical terminology that he has with the back, but they talk about Matthew Crooks, who allegedly was sexually frustrated watching porn just before he tried to assassinate the president. Then they talk about other people I'm not going to mention because I don't really like to talk about mass shooters much. But they do bring up a few others that allegedly had the same kind of thing and believe that there could be a connection. Again, maybe it's something that they're studying. Continuing on. So it says that Mangione had a slipped vertebrae that pinched a nerve, which would cause extreme pain at times. And according to some Reddit account that is suspected to be from Mangione, describes individual experiencing locked up back and hips and intermittent numbness, and then apparently it would go down because I know pinched nerves can be a pain in the ass, but still that doesn't give you an excuse to kill anybody. I'm just trying to read the highlights of this. But anyway, so basically goes on to say that he could not experience pleasuring partners because he could not perform because of this issue, apparently. Now, according to this, I think it's from, I don't know if it's Daily Mail, but the doctor that is quoted in this said it's also possible that Mangione was homosexual. Again, that's alleged. We don't know. Which would come with its own mental and psychological challenges. Again, if that's true, we don't know. Saying that could have also been a catalyst. Doctors have suggested Mangione was suffering from, I'm gonna butcher that word. It's spondylitis. Spondylitis. It's about the best way I can pronounce it. I might probably butchered it, but a spinal condition where the bottom vertebrae of the spine has slipped out of position, and then of course we've seen the surgery, which then there's been doctors who say that it's a surgery that when you get it done, and I think they even let you know beforehand that it's not always gonna be something that's gonna solve the issue, and it could even make it worse. At least that's what I got from the short time that I got to research. But some are saying that the surgery did make it worse. Then they also say that this issue can cause his nether regions to become numb, which obviously would create issues again with the frustration with partners. So a lot of stuff coming out. Spondylosis. Is that it? Is that from that big word? That's all it is spondylosis? Thanks, Rocky. I know I could have probably just typed that up and listened to it. Spondylosis. Spondyliosis. Say that 10 times fast. Did Tiger Woods have similar surgery on his back? That's a good question. Teresa Moore says, I believe the surgery he had called as a spinal infusion. It's a serious surgery. Oh, yeah, any back surgery, I'm sure, especially around the spine, is very serious, for sure. But, yeah, I think it's layers. I don't think it's just any one thing. Again, there is... So I also wanted to get to... In this article, I gotta find it here. Okay, so one theory is that the former valedictorian killed Thompson as an act of war after the company violated its contract with his mother, who suffered years of excruciating pain and expense following a diagnosis of a severe neuropathy. Mangione had written in another document obtained by True Crime podcast Hidden True Crime, which we love, and I think they're from Utah, so if that's true, then represent. And of course, they were out there in the Delphi case. Lauren and her husband, Dr. something, I forget his name. I'm sure chat will help me out, but loved the channel. But they said that that they obtained this document and that the mother was hit with $6,000 deductible on her United Healthcare plan in October. I'm assuming, I don't know if that would be this year or last year. Then the doctor went on vacation and my mother couldn't resume tests until January when her deductible reset. So that would have been October of last year, because he went he dropped off the face of the planet, according to his friends and family, and actually, which is Dr. John, thank you. Also, what's interesting is his mother actually filed a missing persons report for him. I forget the date. Does anybody in chat know? But I thought that was actually pretty wild. Because he did. He just all of a sudden dropped all contact, and then I guess focused his last few months.
Would you accept
your adoption and looking into that?
Planning this assassination. Just a couple more things we'll go over. Yeah, they did the deductibles. Yeah, terrible. I don't even have insurance right now. I have to pay out just straight out of pocket. It sucks.
Systems. It wasn't, anything specific. It wasn't like he had an axe to grind or he was even upset or angry about a particular issue. They were just natural intellectual conversations that you have when you're inquisitive.
So you stayed in touch with him. I know you spoke to him earlier this year, although I understand, RJ, that you tried to reach out to him multiple times even since then, but that he had not responded in those cases. Can you tell me about your last conversation with him?
Mostly just text messages. So I knew he was going to have a surgery. So earlier this year, I checked in with him. He confirmed that he had surgery, and he sent me the x-rays. It looked heinous with just giant screws going into his spine. After that, he called me once. I didn't pick up. We kind of texted a little bit, but we Unfortunately, I feel terrible now. I wish, I would have made more of an effort to communicate with him.
Did you ever have any conversation with him where he brought up anything like guns or anything in that area?
I doubt he would have.
Never once talked about guns, never once talked about violence. He was absolutely a not violent person, as far as I could tell. Yeah.
So RJ, in all of this, as you're just struggling to get your head around what happened here with
yeah, there are some programs. Thank you, Sandy.
And I know you've only had a few hours to even try to comprehend it. But just in these initial hours, do you have any idea?
Yeah, it was.
Why
something like that.
Or how someone that you knew in the way you knew him could have done this?
Personally, I can make zero sense of it. There's never justification for violence. We live in a democratic system.
Yeah,
processes and
it sucks
to address, our issues, and I can make no sense of it.
Well, RJ, I appreciate your taking the time to share all this with us. I know you're in shock about what happened, so thank you for taking the time and trying to help everyone understand a little bit more here about this.
Okay, we'll just listen to a little bit of the lawyer that was hired on to represent Luigi here, and then we'll finish up
today, lest we forget about that. But the Constitution gives you certain rights, and we need to make informed decision. And the law permits, and the Constitution permits, that somebody in Luigi's position has the opportunity to look at evidence, make sure the government follows through a process. And that's what we're doing. So, again, I've been in this case probably about 12, 14 hours, maybe whatever, give or take. And I haven't seen a speck of evidence at all. I argued today at the extradition hearing. I still haven't received details about the charges that he's facing in New York. I heard your introduction and looking into that. But so we as lawyers need to make informed decisions, and we need.
How does this lawyer not know the charges? It's pretty blatant. I can look him up in 2 seconds. I know he's just being a defense lawyer and just trying to be difficult, as that's his job. But here's the charges. Pretty easy to find. They're everywhere. At least now this is in New York. Obviously, he's got charges in Pennsylvania. But in New York, he's got 5 of them right now. Number 1, murder in second degree. Number 2, criminal possession of a weapon in second degree. Criminal possession of a weapon in second degree, which is the second count. Criminal possession of a forged instrument. And then criminal possession of a weapon in the third degree. So, it's interesting. These two are the same. I don't know why, unless that's supposed to be first degree, second degree, and third degree, but it's murder in second degree, so I don't know if you start from second degree. Again, this is a little, but according to this, it's 5 charges, which she then, of course, relays back to him.
To get our hands and our eyes on some evidence.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the charges right here. It's murder, a loaded firearm, 2 counts of that, a forged instrument, and criminal possession of a weapon as well. I mean, those are the charges
2 counts of
from
2
New
degree
York.
of possession.
I mean, so you're not, as you're fighting extradition, you're not actually arguing that the authorities in New York have the wrong guy, are you?
Well, I haven't seen any evidence that they have the right guy. I can tell you.
I wonder if that's because that's counting the gun and the silencer. Let me know in chat.
That much, so I don't know anything about that. There's identification issues that are present, and so I don't. Like I said, this is why I need to look at some things, and they need to convince me. I try to remind people, and it's a shame that we forget about this presumption of innocence that the Constitution gives all Americans, and people don't worry about the Constitution until they're facing charges or accusations against them. Then trust me, Caitlin.
But, the guy did have like a manifesto saying, more or less saying like, hey, I did it. I don't know.
The Constitution matters.
And of course it does. And
yes,
I know you highlighted earlier and emphasized innocent until proven guilty. I understand that. But I read the police report from when he was arrested. He initially gave them a false name. And then when they asked to confirm his identity, he said that he shouldn't have lied to them about it. I mean, that would seem to be that they do have the right person, given that
document.
he had a gun on him. He had a fake New Jersey ID that he used to check into a hostel. I mean, is none of that enough for you personally to know that they do have the right guy?
Well, first of all, that's a piece of paper. I know you probably can't tell, but I'm 5'6". I could write on
that paper's too big for him. He's 5'6".
That I'm 6'5", and all this other kind of stuff. So that's written on paper. What's nice about the law is we'll have a hearing. I can cross-examine witnesses and find out, look at reports and find out what they have and what they don't have. So again, that's just written on a criminal complaint. Without getting into the details of that, I don't see any evidence of a forgery. They're going to have to at least prove a prima facie case, which is less than the beyond a reasonable doubt.
You said you were retained today. One big question that everyone has is, are you being paid by his family to represent him?
Of course he is. Of course he is. No. Yeah. Let's check the chat here. Yeah. I mean, that's their job. And that's why we got a constitution.
I'm not going to comment on that.
Well, can you say that it's not his family who is asking you to retain him? Or to retaining you to represent him?
I'm not going to comment on. I'm not going to comment on that. That's I've been retained. I'm not court appointed. I've been retained, and that's all I can tell you.
We had seen reports earlier that there was, people were inundating you with offers to help pay for his legal bills.
Man, that's crazy. I mean, it doesn't surprise me with how much support he's been getting, but. He says he's not. Well, he says he'll think about it, but I don't know if that would be a good idea or not.
That accurate?
I have received some emails. I have not seen them personally, but my understanding from my staff is people are doing that.
The people.
All right. One last thing here before we finish up. I hate to see this again. Any guy treated bad, but I didn't even notice this. I'm sure a lot of you guys have been following the case. This picture, I didn't even notice this when this came out the other day, but looks like he did unfortunately wet his pants. Maybe he was sadly held without being able to go to the bathroom for too long. Who knows? Anyway, that was pointed out. I do also wonder if that goes to his condition too. Let's see. I think that's pretty much it. It's just such a shame. A guy with such an Ivy League upbringing and driven to throw his life down the drain, allegedly, to try to make some kind of statement or be a martyr, for which, is not the right way to go. Could be the lighting. It's possible. It looks pretty. I don't know. If you get the actual photo, it does look like he may have. Who knows? Maybe he just got water on him when he was washing or something. There could be a rational explanation. It could be something else. Was hard even for me. Put 2 + 2 together. Thank you, Rocky, again. Oh, share English. Adore your show and respect for others. Love from UK. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Yeah, there's photos. I mean, he looks in great shape in, some of those photos where he's, got his shirt off, probably out there hiking or whatever. again, but let me see what the poll is. So we got 49%, or excuse me, 43% say yes, they believe that Luigi wanted to get caught. I don't know. I kind of think he did. I mean, why would you write a confession, or if you just anticipated you were going to get caught, maybe. But again, I just don't understand all this. Again, it looked like such a professional hit, yet he made some of the biggest mistakes by not wearing the cheapest thing out of all the accessories you could have bought. And he could have bought like a $2 pair of gloves from Walmart, maybe $1, who knows, to wear, which you would have left your fingerprints on the bullets, the wrapper, the partial that's left on the water bottle. Again, just really strange. Now, it doesn't seem like he had a history, any kind of criminal history. So I guess if his fingerprints wasn't in the database, then, you know, he could have maybe gotten away with it for some time, until maybe DNA was found. Again, that's still something that that'll probably come down the road if he did leave DNA behind. As a nurse practitioner, would hate to turn people away due to financial limitations. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot of times if you go to the ER and you don't have insurance, you know, of course they'll try to work with you, ask for a down payment, but holy good Christmas, it is expensive. I did an ER visit a couple of years back, and it was like $1,000 or more just for like the basic test and just to have an ER visit, you know. I was probably in there for like 2 hours at most, and, you know, like majority of that was just waiting, and probably had just the basic blood test done. I can't remember. I think I was having like some flak pain or something, and anyway, yeah, just thought something was, you know, wrong, and I went in, and then, you know, about a month later I get a bill that's, you know, over like 15 grand, 1,500 grand. And it's like, damn. All that for a couple of tests? Oh, Jamie says, I posted that poll, but my opinion has changed to yes. Yeah, I think with the note, and again, I don't know, just, again, why didn't he get rid of the mask? And I don't know. If they had found like a fingerprint on like, you know, like if there was like a partial fingerprint on the water bottle, maybe kind of slipped up, you know. But to have like fingerprints on like the bullets, the wrapper, the water bottle, to me, I don't know. Maybe he thought he was smarter than he, you know, again, like a lot of people said in chat, book smart, but not street smart. Even though it appeared as if he was in the beginning, but be interesting to know who he called, or if that whole phone call that he was, you know, where it's shown he's kind of walking with the phone, was that him actually really calling somebody, you know, or maybe he was calling about the Greyhound or something. I wonder if people have, you know, because I think a lot of people assume he's talking to somebody and that there's possibly a accomplice to help him. I really wonder if this is him just calling up Greyhound and saying, you know, like, hey, what are your schedules or whatever. I'm sure it's something more like that than him actually talking to, you know, a friend or accomplice. So, yeah. SHS 1K is cheap for a hospital visit. I guess. It shocked the hell out of me. I mean, most of the time I've always had health insurance, but then now being a YouTuber, obviously being self-employed, of course, they have, plans that you can get on that definitely cost a little bit of money that I can't get on and need to try to this when enrollment starts, which is probably going to be soon. But yeah, it's crazy. Teresa, thank you so much for supporting the channel with the $4.99. God bless you. It does help this channel out. Tomorrow, we'll be covering Sebastian Rogers. Again, I almost was going to... The reason why I was late is because I was debating on whether I was going to cover Sebastian Rogers because, again, I have a source that's very close to the case, and I was on the phone with them for quite a while and learned some really shocking things, and so definitely need to go over those because rumor mill has it that there could be some momentum going in the Sebastian Rogers case. Again, do I know that for sure? I don't, but there's definitely stuff going on, that's for sure. So yeah, they do, Kat. Yeah. Yeah, I looked at it last year and I just didn't get enrolled in time because yeah, it's a long story. But yeah, I definitely need to next enrollment. Oh, December 15th when enrollment. Yeah, because it starts towards kind of the end of the year and then goes for like a couple months. Yeah. Yeah, and keeping the gun. Yeah, again, yeah, keeping the gun, the note. Yeah, there's so many things that are like, why? I don't think he was going to unalive anybody else. But then again, I guess we may never know. Is I ever like to have insurance in all my adult life? I've had maybe 5 years total as an age. I'm going to have to get it. I don't know how to afford it. Yeah. Yeah, it's so crazy. The whole healthcare system here is backwards, and I get why there is a lot of people, that look up to this guy, but again, murdering someone in cold blood isn't the answer. And, what does that teach your children and the next generation? That, to solve our problems, we go and shoot people in cold blood if we don't agree with what they're doing. And, they're just going to get replaced. And then I think in a corporation like that, like, I'm sure it's more than just the CEOs. Obviously the CEOs get, a big share of the pot. But, I'm sure there's more people that are responsible for those decisions. And, yeah. Rocky will send email today. Okay, Rocky. Yep, it's in the it's in the chat and also down in the description as well. They found a bag of bullets? And oh, you're right. Oh, and this is new. Bag of bolts found. No, not tied. Okay, Ziploc bag. Okay, so it's not tied to the same thing. There it is right there. It's not the best picture. Let me see if I can zoom it in. Then you can kind of, it's a Ziploc bag. There's some leaves. I think these are leaves right here. And unspent shell casings. There's been a lot of weird stuff going on. There's people that have set up like YouTube channels claiming to be, Luigi. And there was like some countdown that YouTube took down the other day where, there was an imposter basically. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be stuff like this going on for a while. No worries. I mean, you're right. There was a bag of bullets found. And they probably did maybe thought it was him in the beginning. I mean, it was found in New Central Park, which is where, he ditched the bag. So, yeah, I could definitely see why they would probably originally thought it was him. Christmas Mullen. Great name for this time of year. The best thing this guy could do is either plead guilty with reasons or take a plea deal rather than try to fight it out. Sounds like they have a ton of evidence against him at this stage. They do. I mean, especially with the fingerprint, because everybody likes that DNA fingerprint, that solid evidence. Even though, in my opinion, surveillance is just as solid as anything else. Yeah, they're going to have a pretty strong case against him. Now, I heard that they may try to build a defense around his medical conditions. There's several ways that they could take this. That'll be interesting to see. Again, no, it's just sad to see a guy with such great potential, listening to his valedictorian speech, and what he had planned for the future and, what he did and what he had accomplished. And then just to throw it all away, I don't know. It's a shame because, who knows? That guy could have changed the world, in a much better way. Sadly. Is it Sister Krista? Sorry, it's a little small right here where I have it. That's an awesome name. Thank you so much for the $20 super sticker. God bless you. Yeah, I have back pain. I mean, I don't have pinched nerves in my back, and hopefully that doesn't ever happen. But I broke my hip. I've got tons of metal in me. And I'm not trying to, put poor me, because I'm sure people in chat have their stories as well. But yeah, I mean, I've got a rod that goes from my hip down to my knee, because I skateboarded for 12 years, long story short, and anybody knows what a half pipe is. Basically, think of a swimming pool, like an 8 to 10 foot swimming pool. Take out the water, right? And then having somebody jump and land on their side as if they were jumping in the water, but there's no water. Now, that's not exactly what I did. I was doing something, skateboarding, and I got caught up on the coping at the top, and so it shot me down, which is actually what made it worse. Anyway, and I bounced when I hit, too, and it was a good 8-10 foot right to the concrete. Yeah, broke part of my hip, and actually tore up my left shoulder as well. Anyway, yeah, so I'd have a rod put in from my hip to my knee, but the thing that sucked, I mean, everything sucked, but they had to put a pin from my in my hip and then in my knee as well. And the pin that went in my knee, my left knee was fine. Like, I didn't do any damage when I fell on it. But when they put that pin in, oh my God, I couldn't walk. I mean, I had to learn how to walk again, which was crazy. And I walked funny for like a good couple months, and I was worried I was going to like walk funny for the rest of my life. But luckily I muscle memory, you just have to get it back. But anyway, the pin that went into my knee, I thought was screwed for the rest of my life. Like, it would pop constantly. And sometimes it would pop in a weird spot that I felt like I couldn't even walk. And anyway, it finally just needed to work in, my body just needed to get adjusted to the hardware that was put in my body. It took years. And I really, was in a terrible place for a while because I'm like, man, I'm never going to be the same. But, you just have to kind of push through it, Yeah, skateboarding's amazing. I think it's a great outlet. When I started skateboarding, it was still kind of like frowned upon, and it wasn't considered like a sport, or athletics. But skateboarding is amazing. It's a great outlet. It's, even though it's not a team building thing, if you go to the skate park, you have friends and you encouraging each other. And now it's, kind of a, esports, which is not esports. I'm sorry. Thinking gaming, but now it's part of, the bigger community and taken seriously, which I think is great because, anyway, I'm sorry. I'm getting so sidetracked, but anyway. Duct tape and super glue. There you go. Some of us set up metal detectors. I was always wondering about that, but I do have a lot of metal in me, but I don't set off any metal detectors anyway. Oh, that's awesome, Heather. Yeah, skateboarding is amazing. It is a more kind of a dangerous sport in a way, but many extreme sports is what it would be called, is comes with consequences, unfortunately. Yeah, buses. Yeah, it happens. All right, guys, tomorrow, Sebastian Rogers. A lot to go over. Holy shnikes. We'll try to start at 7 p.m., not 8 p.m., 7 p.m. Eastern, my usual time for the mods. So I apologize for the late start because, again, I was on the phone with my source close on the Rogers case, and I just would not had enough time to put something together for everything that I've been told. So we will go over that tomorrow, and then yeah. If you're a skater, I'm friends with one of the old Dogtown members here in LA. What? That's awesome. If that's true, that's really neat. Yeah. Surfers who that's how skateboarding started. Surfers who, unfortunately, wanted to be able to do that on the streets and cement, and turned it into skateboarding, which is really awesome. Really cool. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. God bless everybody for the support. Again, if you'd like to support the channel, there's Patreon memberships. I've been uploading stuff recently to Patreon membership and my YouTube memberships as well. And I'm still trying to work out the Patreon thing. It's kind of a mess. So